Hi, welcome to Lowkey Louder. My name is Natalie.
And my name is Leslie. And today we're going to be talking about when self help turns into self sabotage. It can be very tricky sometimes to find out or realize when the self help has turned into something negative and that is no longer being useful to you. And we're going to try to point out some of the things so that maybe you can realize it for yourself.
One way that this can show up in your life and you can maybe recognize if you've gotten stuck in this trap is just endlessly learning about a certain subject, usually some type of self help subject, and just sort of getting stuck on it and feeling like you need to get better at it, but then never actually taking action. And at that point is when you need to question yourself, like, do I need to move into the application stage?
Also, using perfectionism and disguising it as growth, as saying, like, oh, it just needs to I need to polish this work or it's just not done yet. I still have to put more work into it, more effort, and just endlessly trying to perfect the thing because you're working on it and it feels like you're doing something and it just feels like growth, but it's just a disguise that is just actually holding you back because perfectionism doesn't take anybody anywhere.
Sometimes we can self sabotage by overfilling our plate and
Mm.
over scheduling and just trying to do all the things at once. But we already know where this leads, and it just leads you to burnout, which this is when this cycle goes, which is what we're saying, that it seems like you're doing something positive by trying to get all these things done off of your to-do list at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, cramming everything. But it ends up being self sabotage because then you end up burnt out and then you can't function. So that's how it can be self sabotage.
And then using self help content, healing content, any learning content as a way to avoid doing the work, doing the emotional work, the real work, whatever kind of work, but just as a means to avoid it because you're in that stage of, yes, I'm learning and it feels like you're doing something about it and you're in this positive state. So you're just ignoring the negativity around it. So the self help and all the learning and all the stuff, yeah, if you're using it to avoid the work, the real work that needs to be done, then yeah, that's you're sabotaging yourself.
Yeah, and some people call that spiritual bypassing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you don't want to get stuck in that trap either.
Yeah, we're emotional bypassing. You want to
Yes.
be real and truth to yourself with your emotions and about your reality about what's happening so that you can make true changes and actually get to where you need to with your goals and your life.
So, why do people fall into this trap of trying to be perfect or doing too much or just getting stuck learning and doing all these things that seem positive but end up actually being self sabotage in the end? Like, why do people get trapped in this? And I think one of the things is societal's expectations
Mm-hmm.
and basically trying to prove your worth to the world. And I feel like that's one of the ways that people get trapped in this.
Mm-hmm. The hustle culture
Yes.
and all about the grind.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, grind yourself to nothing. Another way that we fall into this trap or this loop is the fear of being still, the fear of actually acknowledging your emotions and the reality of things, of sitting there and, yeah, just basically acknowledging the truth. A lot of people try to avoid that at all costs. They go socialize a lot or they go on social media. They'll do anything whatsoever, like throw themselves into a course, into a book, whatever, just so that they don't have to sit there with the truth, because the truth will mean that you have to make changes a lot of the times.
Another reason people fall into this trap is because of comparison. Obviously, we live in a world in this day and age where everyone is constantly posting and showing off online. And I feel like it can be very easy for people to fall into this comparison trap
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of feeling like they're not doing enough because it seems like everyone else is doing so much. And then that's how people can end up burnt out because they're trying to do it all. And at the end of the day, we're actually just human. So,
And lastly, another point that we want to make is it gives you the illusion of control. Um, you're saying that you're working on yourself. You're saying that you're learning, that you're in this stage, and that you just got to complete these courses, and that you just have to heal this part of yourself. But a lot of times, wanting to fix yourself and really throwing yourself so hard into all of the positivity and all of the self help, it's just a way to try to control the situation. But are you still avoiding it is the question. Like, are you just trying to take control so it can seem like it's going a certain way? It's just another thing to keep in mind so that you can try to look at it in yourself and see if it resonates. Like, are you trying to control the situation to make it seem a certain kind of way so that it can feel all right when it's really not? Like we said, there's a lot of points sitting with the emotion or just trying to get away from it, like trying to avoid it, could be one of the things that's happening.
For sure.
I have definitely been guilty of taking a ridiculous amount of courses, but then not applying any principle of those, or like applying it very loosely, and
Mm-hmm.
then just, yeah, basically feeling like I'm being so productive and getting so much done. And like, I don't know, like, so I'm upgrading, but I'm not doing as much progress as I could be doing because it's like that dopamine or whatever it is that's chemically going on in your brain gets checked off. Like, you're doing something because you're learning, but no, you're. It's just I. It's so much better to actually take action and apply yourself and put yourself in that uncomfortable situation to practice. And I wasn't doing much of the practicing, so I definitely have been super guilty of that.
I've been guilty of keeping track of my to-do list and like how many tasks I can get done in a day, and then just sort of getting to this place where it feels like it has to always keep growing exponentially, and then getting stuck in that trap of feeling like, no, but like I always have to do better, I always have to do more. And then since I was like constantly tracking what I was doing, anytime that I wasn't doing as much as I was doing before, then now I was shaming myself and feeling bad that I wasn't doing as
Mm,
much. So then I'm trying again, pushing, trying to do more and more and more and more. But the thing is that that's not how being a human being works. Like, I'm not just going to endlessly become more productive forever. Like, we have ups and downs, and I feel like that's just something that we have to accept. And trying to not accept that, it's just you falling into that trap of wanting to control things. Like, it's just
mm-hmm.
is what it is, and we need to understand that, and that's just a part of being a human being, and it's okay.
Yeah. And like we said, it's hard sometimes to realize that you're actually sabotaging yourself because we do like tracking our stuff because
Yeah.
it does give us a way to give ourselves credit when we
Mm-hmm.
find it hard to give ourselves credit for the stuff that we are doing. But at the same time,
It can
it can
turn.
backfire. It can turn
Mm-hmm.
on you. And if you start shaming yourself, like, oh, I wasn't doing as much as I was doing last month or last week. So, yeah, you do have to be so mindful with your self help, like routines or practices, whatever it is that you're doing, because we came to realize,
Yeah.
which is why we're having this conversation, that yeah, self help definitely sometimes becomes self sabotage in ways in which we hide and don't take action.
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to tracking your tasks or your to-do list or how productive you're being, I think we have to be very mindful of when that self-optimization starts to turn into self-sabotage. Because when you're I understand trying to make yourself better, I understand
Mm-hmm.
trying to grow, I understand that trying to have better habits, I get all of that. But if you're using all these journals and tracking things to just shame yourself for not being good enough, then that's when we need to take a look at that a little harder. Because obviously at the end of the day, that's not going to end positively for you. I've been there, done that, and you can't shame yourself into being more productive, trust
No.
me. So I think that we need to focus more on self-compassion
Mm-hmm.
and just understanding that we're not always going to be at the same level of productivity.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to ebb and flow throughout our lives, and that's okay, because that's just what being human is, and it is what it is. But I think that that's something that maybe a lot of people out there can relate.
Yeah, and as silly as it sounds, like for some reason, I really did believe for a very long time, like, yes, productivity has to be at this amount of percent all the time, or else it really does feel like it was feeling, or let me
Mm-hmm.
reframe that,
Yeah.
shameful.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, like, it's so important to recognize that, like, are you feeling ashamed? Like, are you doing that to yourself? Like, please don't. Like, we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
hone in on how important it is to have that self-compassion and just have some grace with yourself, because we're not robots, guys. We're
Yeah.
human. And I understand that society puts these pressures on us because, like we mentioned, this like hustle culture thing. But we need to prioritize like being mindful with ourselves and being graceful and being kind to ourselves, because we're gonna burn out. If you don't, you're gonna burn out, and that's no fun. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna set you back a little bit, because now you're gonna have to recover from that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that it's very important to pay attention to the fact that if you're tracking yourself and it's turning into this thing where you're just making yourself feel bad, it's probably time to take a step back. I feel
Yeah.
like for me, I used to, like I said, I just wanted my productivity to climb, and that was always the goal. Like I just always wanted to do more and more and more and more, but that is not that's not realistic
No.
to continuously grow and grow and grow when it comes to productivity. And I think that if you're using any of these tracking tools, it should be more to give yourself credit for the
Mm-hmm.
things that you do get done,
Mm-hmm.
instead of it being the other way around of shaming yourself for the things that you cannot get done. Because I feel like that's where it turns into a slippery slope. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Next one, definitely very important. Action over endless theory. You definitely want to be taking action on what you're learning. You want to be putting into practice
Yeah.
all the wisdom that you've like now have gained. You That is so important. If you're not really putting it into practice, it doesn't really click all the way. Like, you have a fundamental knowing of things, but it's not until you start taking consistent action that it really truly stays with you. So if you really wanted to make changes or learn something, heal, then yeah, you would have to take the action, not just like say the words and listen to the podcast and read the books. Like, there has
Mm-hmm.
to be facing real truths and having hard conversations. It's gonna be a lot of that. It's gonna be a lot of ugly, not aesthetically pleasing stuff.
Yeah, a lot of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like we've touched upon, this society values a lot of the hustle culture, and just sort of just driving yourself to insanity, trying to go over what you can actually handle. And I think that we need to prioritize rest as much as we
Mm-hmm.
do everything else, in order for us to actually be productive and not burn out
Mm-hmm.
and be able to continuously keep this like nice rhythm going. You need to rest. And from what I've learned from tracking my productivity and all those things, is that the best thing to do is to just try to keep yourself steady. Like I said, in the beginning, I was aiming for the sky. I just wanted to do the most.
Climbing the mountain.
And then I was crashing. I was seeing it visually on these charts, that I would try to do so much, but then in the weeks coming after that, I was not able to function properly. So I was crashing. So it was a lot of this up and down and up and down. And I think that in reality, what actually ended up helping me was trying to keep it steady. I'm not trying to climb no crazy tower, and I'm also not going to go and do nothing. I'm just trying to aim for steady,
Mm-hmm.
and give myself credit for the things that I do, and then making sure that I prioritize rest, because without taking rest, then you're just not going to be able to be productive at all. So,
Yeah, that was really well said. So trust yourself, because you know what's best. Intuitively, you know what is best for you. And yes, there's a lot of self-help books, podcasts, and all these kinds of great things out there. And I'm not saying that they won't help you. Sometimes they will. Sometimes they will say the certain sentence or certain something that will click something in you and
mm-hmm.
can have a ripple effect, which is amazing. But don't put their voice and like the author voice or the podcast, the host, don't put their voice over yours. Don't make their truth trump like yours. Like, you need to hone into your own truth and listen to yourself. You can do that. You can absolutely do that. You just have to find a moment of stillness and honesty and just be able to accept whatever it is that you hear that comes up in your subconscious. So trust yourself more than any teacher, any course, anything else, because you know best. You know how to get yourself there. It's just the trust process.
Yes. Okay, so here's a journal prompt that you can use. What am I trying to fix that might just need acceptance? I feel like that is a good journal prompt to
Mm-hmm.
see what comes up. I would recommend just doing stream of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of sit there and write whatever comes out and basically go until you fill the page or something.
Yeah,
Like, I feel like that's the best way to see what's actually in there, see what comes out of your brain.
exactly. No censor.
Yes.
And the challenge that you can do for yourself this week is no new self help content, only practicing what you already know.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because, like we've talked about in this episode, we can get trapped in the learning cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's like more important to actually apply these things. So, no self help for a week.
No more new content,
Yeah.
just applying what you already know. And just remember, you are allowed to be a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time. I know you've heard that one before, but it's true. Have the grace with yourself while you're still in the work in progress, but still know that you're already doing the work. There's already progress being made. Acknowledge that. Celebrate those little wins or big wins, all of them, everything in between. So, yeah.
Yes. Two things can be true at once.
Yep. So, to reiterate our main point, self help should help you live, not make you obsess about living better.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Like, share, and subscribe if you feel like you want to do that.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. Leave us some comments down below, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Come here.
You want some pills?
Hi, honey.
Hello. Oh my
Hi,
goodness.
honey.
Hello. Oh, everybody should worship you.
You being a little pure. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.